Welcome to the overview of Rapax's new feature called Frank, the AI native Tier 1 support automation for telecom operators. I'll be taking you through today of how Frank can impact your ability to manage your customer support. Let's jump in to understand a little bit more about what Frank can do. Your support environment, if you have, let's say, 50 fully loaded engineers, only 30% of the resources that are being spent is actually consumed fixing problems. 70% of the work that they are doing are typical routine triage work. So, being a human search engine, when a customer asks for a question, understanding the request that they have, and maybe it's just a feature request, maybe it's just a password reset, this is incredibly inefficient use of highly qualified, trained resources to a tune of maybe $5 million a year if you have 50 fully loaded engineers. So, the busier your support team gets, the least strategic they become. This causes the longer response times, the SLA breaches, and more importantly, your engineering burnout. So when it comes down to your support environment, having people ready to jump on and fix a problem is more important than keeping them busy. That's really what the problem Frank is designed to solve. That 70% is the support waste that you're having to deal with. About half of the tickets that are being sent across are going to be just customers asking simple questions. Then your people have to find the answer, type it out, or copy and paste it in, and point them back to the documentation. And this kind of work is tedious. It is soul-crushing for highly qualified people that you're trying to hire and retain. The next is 20% of the tickets that come across. The customer is not providing you enough information to perform any kind of triage or troubleshooting at all. So your people have to take extra time asking them to find certain logs or to provide a version information. Then, about 5% of the time, you're going to see a lot of duplicate tickets. People who open up a ticket yesterday forgetting that they opened a ticket and it was answered, and they're just asking again. And then there's a lot of false alarms. So when people are going through and saying, hey, I have a problem, and really because they didn't do any troubleshooting at all, they don't really have a problem. So this is what constitutes that 60 to 70% of tickets that do not require any human judgment. The devil is in the detail that 40 to 30% is what makes and breaks your SLAs. And you can't do that with AI. But if your humans are focused on things that are inconsequential, you're not going to be able to make your SLAs properly. So Frank is an out-of-box Tier 1 agent, not a chatbot. Its job is not to talk to the customer. Frank's job is to qualify the tickets, read the inbound ticket, look through the knowledge base, your pre-existing tickets, your third-party knowledge base information, your documentation basis, so that it can attempt to deflect these tickets or escalate it to a human as quickly as possible, making sure that they have everything that they need to make progress on the ticket. And this is how Frank avoids that high hallucination risk that frustrates many CX customers today. And again, Frank is not designed to replace your engineers. It's designed to intercept the work before it reaches them and ground it to your documentation base. This way, your people get the most amount of traction in the time that they have, and that they are not wasting their time doing the same old over and over and over again. That'll burn out your people and dissuade high-quality people from staying in support. This dual-engine architecture is what provides that stability. We'll be going in and listening as new incidents are created, and that a deterministic incident management system, which Frank uses to understand where things are at, and progress it into the step-by-step way of qualifying the tickets so that humans get the most amount out of it. It isn't about the decisioning of trying to fix a problem. It's about understanding and providing value into your incident management flow, with deflection being a bonus. Now you could still disable Frank in your system, and everything will continue as follows. It will automatically escalate to a human first. However, giving Frank a first pass provides that extra level of capability and reduces the level of effort for your engineers. So as an example, when an alert is created, maybe you have automated alerting into tickets, being able to research those as they would come. That's where AI comes into play. Now, the routing that you may have in your pre-existing ticketing environment has a lot of manual assignment or rules-based, where if a customer does not fill out the ticket correctly, it will go into the wrong queue and cause SLA violations. Frank will actually override those if the classification the customer set is incorrect. Then there's the SLA enforcement. SLA is not just about the numbers, it's also about going through and understanding the frustration level and being able to escalate based upon the frustration level that it's detecting from a sentiment analysis of the ticket themselves. Not all tickets are open the same. Some are just, hey, I have a question. Some are more around, hey, I'm in immediate peril. Help me immediately. And being able to detect that frustration is that customer value that so much customers are looking for, that human touch that AI can help you with. Check this out when there's a system failure, right? If AI times out and fails any kind of automation, it will automatically redirect to a human queue flow. So that, again, the goal here is not to replace engineers. It is to help engineers. So here's the 5-step decision process for ticketing. And the first thing it tries to do is Frank goes through and says, hey, can I deflect this? Let me just find the questions and see if they're well documented in the knowledge base. If there's a high confidence level that the question being asked is already in the knowledge base, it will create a response and reply back with an auto close back to the customer saying, hey, I found this in the knowledge base. I think this answers your question. If not, reopen your ticket and I'll get it to a human. This should help deflect a good portion of those question-only tickets because most of the customers do not use knowledge base. They'd rather send an email, and this is a way to close the loop of all the knowledge base infrastructure that you can put in place. The next is the classification. What Frank does is allow you to reanalyze what the customer put as a category. Perhaps they posted as a bug, and it's actually a feature request or a question, but it is a known bug. This allows tickets to be placed in the proper queues to avoid any kind of SLA violations simply because of a categorization problem. Now, just like with the deflection, it gives the customer the ability to reopen the ticket and reclassify it themselves. This prevents a lot of confusion and misses when it comes to SLAs. The third part that Frank does is around the intake. It's going to do a checklist and say, I open a question, and that question is going to need things like version information, and it's going to need what component are you talking about, what module are you talking about, what's your circuit ID, this kind of information. Frank will push back to the customer and say, hey, you forgot to mention these things that are vital for this kind of ticket. And it'll ask for the logs, it'll ask for this information. That way, once a human takes control of the situation, they start triaging the problem, they'll have the what they need to provide actionable information back to the customer. Next, there is the false alarm check. So this is more for automated ticketing where a customer says, I see that this circuit is down, and it will actually check the live telemetry to see if that circuit is currently down. This will then be able to go back to the customer and say, are you sure you're talking about the wrong circuit? Because I'm showing that circuit to be up. Can you verify that? And then again, if, hey, it's back up, that's not a problem anymore, well, then the ticket's closed and everything's fine. If they still have a problem, they can escalate it to a human. Then last, when all this processing is complete, we can escalate it over to a human so they can go through and actually resolve the issue. And again, the goal is not to reduce how many humans are working in the support desk. The goal is to focus those humans on fixing problems to actually impact customer satisfaction, which is the goal of what a support organization is about. So here's an example where we're validating outage signals where a customer says there's an outage, it looks at the live telemetry and it says, hey, is the outage actually showing down or not? And it'll downgrade the priority if the outage is not done. It never silently does this. It always goes back to the customer so they can understand what Frank is doing and override it. The strict confidence thresholds allow for a better understanding with hallucinations. So we need at least a 2/3 confidence or better, and this is configurable, to auto-close or deflect. Then you can change this in your environment depending upon the quality of your information. Obviously, the stronger your knowledge base, the higher the confidence would be. And as you address tickets and update tickets manually, that gets automatically added to your knowledge base so that just by manually fixing tickets, that confidence level will go up and Frank will become more valued. So Frank is constantly looking at the SLAs for what's going on so that they understand what the customer is experiencing, what they're seeing, understanding when the first response is, and making sure that the engineers as well as the historical reporting shows which SLAs are being violated and why those SLAs are being violated. So here are 4 use cases that we like to talk about the most. So the first, the top left, is that routine knowledge base hit. When a customer asks a question that is in the knowledge base, Frank can just log in using Wade's knowledge base, finds the article, replies with the information, and auto-closes creating zero human time. And so this is reinforcing your knowledge-based investment in your support organization. The duplicate pattern is another example where when a customer opens ticket and says, I have this problem, and then 2 hours later opens a duplicate ticket with the same problem. Maybe they have two engineers at the same organization and they're not quite working with each other. Well, you can point them back to the original ticket. That way, you're not duplicating efforts and your documentation is not duplicated either. The most common is that top right, which is the incomplete report, is when somebody opens a ticket and they have not properly given the information enough so that a human can troubleshoot the problem. And then lastly, when somebody gets frustrated. Everybody gets frustrated with support at one time or another. They have 8 by 5 and they open a ticket at 2 a.m. saying, hey, I need your help right now, even though they don't have 24 by 7. So being able to read into the customer's tone of what the ticket says, you can understand whether or not maybe the best course of action is getting a human involved right away. The goal of Frank is to reclaim your engineering capacity. It is to boost your deflection and auto close so that you can focus more time and attention on the customers who truly need help and can be helped right now than the ones that are just asking for basic information that they're looking for a human search engine. So reach out to Rapax today and ask about how Frank can help you. Sales at Rapax, rapax.app, or you can see the link below here, cal.com/Sean-Ennis. So let's jump in with a quick demo to show you what this product can do. Here you should be able to see Rapax, and you'll be able to see the tickets that are open in the top left here. So I can just look at, what are the alert fields used for up-down correlation? And you could see when somebody sent an email and says, I'm trying to understand the basic flow. And you could see when the first response is, and then you could see 20 seconds later was the resolution. And you can see that it found all the articles, knowledge-based articles, and then it provided a detailed answer back to the customer, and it was closed. So from a customer perspective, though, let me show you what the support portal will look like. You can see here is the email that was sent across and what Frank has said in closing out the ticket. This is a very straightforward example, but as I said, there are many different use cases. We'd love to hear more about your use cases in the future. So please reach out to sales@rapax.app. Thank you.